is 6:34. Call this work session to order. This is the work session of Mayor and Council, City of Snellville, Georgia, Monday, December 11th, 2017. Y'all give me just a second. Get back on the city Wi-Fi. Okay, so first we'll go over the regular business meeting agenda. Do we have somebody for the invocation or the pledge yet?
The invocation is Bobby Howard. The pledge, I think it would be a great idea to call on whoever's here from the Georgia SAR Color Guard and Elijah Clark Militia. I'm sure we'll be happy to do it.
Put them to work.
Call winging it. Is that your ID number for Gwinnett?
Yes, it is.
That's the year you were hired. Mine's
Oh, it
2002.
is.
All right, then we have several ceremonial matters. We've got the recognition of the Senior Center volunteers. We've got the proclamation for the Button Gwinnett Chapter Militia. Sunrise Rotary Club Peace Pole dedication. And then presentation from Bobby to the City Council, or City of Snellville. And we just got the minutes, committee reports.
Take the Evermore off because there's nothing since last time.
Okay. Then under the public hearing, we've got 4 first readings. Anybody have any questions or concerns on any of those at this point?
Yes. The first one is the RZ 1713.
RZ.
The second B.
The second
Item
one?
B.
Okay.
Like the next one,
B.
you could ask them to do it.
So condition 8 and 9. 8 is talking about building additions having to be consistent with color and existing material of the structure. Why can't they use a different thing?
That's like, I mean, basically, if they put a shed up, you wouldn't want them to throw up like a metal shed that looks nothing like the major structure. Normally when you build, you know, you want to keep things consistent. That's already in the code, we just added.
I know it's in the, yeah, I know it's in the code, but why are we making, forcing somebody to build how we want them to build? Because that's basically what it is.
Well, that's what the development regulations are there for. I mean, to require architectural controls so we don't have a lot of variance between the main structure and the secondary structure. We could paint a pink wooden building and have a brick office. I mean, that's kind of where the,
But what, if somebody wanted to paint a pink building, what would it matter if they wanted to paint a pink building?
I mean, that's what the codes are there for.
In this case,
Okay,
it's
well.
just looking for consistency.
Yeah,
Consistency between
just
the
not
main building.
making it look cluttered and,
Like a mishmash.
yeah.
It's pretty standard. I mean, if they wanted to do something that was, you know, kind of groundbreaking or something that was still nice, we'd consider it.
I understand that, but that's just all personal preference is what that argument is, and that doesn't, that's
Well,
preference,
the,
that's
you know,
not.
design criteria are basically put in place so that there's a balance between personal preference and then, you know, consistency with the rest of the city's architecture.
So was it put in there because they brought up something, or was it put in there because,
It might have been an old condition or something too, especially with those, conversions from like a ranch into an office park. We like to pay attention to those because they have, usually they're backed up next to a residence or something too. So they usually are more seen from, you know, existing residents. And that one specifically is they had some concerns about the one before too. The neighboring one that had an accessory structure that was viewable from their rear yards, so we added it in.
And those properties right along there, I just remember when those were switching from residential to office professional. I mean, it was a big concern that it wasn't gonna upset the neighbors behind it. Because they still live in a residential community, and for them to be behind somebody that wants to paint their business bright blue now, you know, it's just distracting and it takes away from
Yeah,
their.
but then they get engaged civically and then they do their part to try to stop it. There's a whole process for that. We're still arguing personal preference at the end of the day. Because I would like ours, we're planning to paint our cafe like this blue that isn't even like any code. It's just this blue that my wife likes. But it costs them money to have to do that kind of stuff. Is there a way I can talk to them about
So-
the actual person building this to see what the deal
Yeah,
is
I
with
mean,
this?
that's not even, there's really
Okay.
nothing even planned right now for that, that's for the future, so if they wanted to, it's just kind of a catch-all condition for the future, yeah, you can talk to Mr.
And that-
Lynn, his contact info's on the.
And then condition 9 is saying that they have to give up property, so it says this property contains areas identified by the Gwinnett County Open Space Greenways Master Plan for a future trail, dedicate at no cost to Gwinnett County all necessary right-of-way and easements. So basically, they're having to give up part of their private property to the county
That was
at
an
no
old
cost.
condition, that was part of the original rezoning that we just carried on.
And they're fine with giving away their property for free.
Typically, if they have any concerns, they'll let us know, they've been given the staff reports and stuff, so they didn't have any problem with it with planning commission.
So if they
If
have,
they
a-
objected, I mean, you could take it off, you could remove that condition.
okay, I guess I'll talk with them to see if they're okay with that.
And a lot of those properties too, when they were switching over, we required them as part of the conditions to give us the easement to put sidewalks down there because we knew that would be coming in the future.
Yeah, the sidewalk I get. This is a Greenway County paths behind their yard or something. That's it for that one, I think.
Okay, anything on any of the other ones?
Z or item D.
Okay.
Oh, it says sign ordinance text amendment. That was a typo, I'm guessing?
On item D,
Yes.
it's about parking and loading requirements
That's
for churches.
the big one for the church and then.
Oh, no, where it says, agenda item summary, it says sign ordinances text amendment.
It may have been,
Okay.
what's it
And
say?
then sign ordinance text
It may
amendment.
have just been a relic of the last one, but.
Okay, and then, it says, so this is being done because the concern of mayor and council is that these churches are neither characteristic of the other business or shopping center, nor do they promote opportunities for neighboring businesses. That's not really my concern at all. And it says council and mayor. Because the way I see it is, if a church wants to move into a place that's available, they should. This, to me, seems like we're just putting more burdens on a religious institution to have to qualify to move into one of those spots. And I've seen plenty of cities that have churches in developed commercial areas. Because I was looking through it, and it's like required 5 acres, all these buffer zones. It basically makes it to where there's extremely limited real estate now in Snellville, if this passed, to where a church can come in. And it's almost like you can pick which spots, and that's about it. Is that, well, I don't agree with, first of all, the whole, this is what the mayor and council believe, because I don't believe that. And then,
Where are you reading from?
right here at the agenda, the whole package.
Oh, in
whole
the,
thing,
for the planning department report?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, Tony, legally, do you see this putting more of a burden on religious institutions moving forward compared to what it is now? Because the way I see it is like it is, but I want to know your legal.
The focus of it's not really the religious institution. It's trying to give guidelines to that in an SUP process for approval that's a little more restrictive, and really it's making churches sort of more on equal ground. Those conditions of 5 acres and all, they don't really apply they do apply in non-commercial zoning classes. And so you got a lot of restrictions that go with churches as a general rule, and the churches have complied with those requirements. It's when they're trying to sort of pigeon themselves into a shopping center is what you're sort of evening the playing field for everybody in terms of cost and in terms of what you're trying to achieve when you have a big group of people getting together. It's not really a religious thing. It's just when people get together for that purpose, then you have to have parking and playgrounds. And you're just trying to make it consistently.
You're talking about assembly.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, there's nothing about it that's intended to target religious institutions. It's simply, you can see that the city has been a little burdened with the concept of putting those into areas that are really designed for retail space. And it's just, it's sort of making the controls consistent, so.
It's just that where I see a potential for basically an organization suing the city.
Oh, no
Basically, this is
question.
the way I see it.
Anytime, there's a provision in the federal law that's 10 years old that gives a lot of force protection to religious institutions. And any regulation you approve for that area, you're subject to getting sued, and but it doesn't, you know, even the old zoning classifications in the county have those same concepts that go with them. And so the fact that y'all are trying to give people ideas about what's acceptable in terms of space requirements and that's appropriate zoning. You know, somebody else, a federal judge, will have to tell us if we're stepping too far in that regulation. But it won't be this change that's necessarily does it. It's the whole class that we've created for churches and assemblage, places of assembly for purposes of worship. It's all of those regulations can be attacked, because the federal law was subsequent to all the zoning provisions going into place.
So if I vote no on that, and then the city does get sued, I'm out of that deal. Well, I have to defend.
Well, no,
I
you're
guess,
still
why I
part of
voted
the
no.
city.
Everybody.
No, I know, but I would have to defend, I guess, why I voted no, which is fine, but I wouldn't be like, no, okay, I get it.
You don't have personal exposure. Nobody has personal
It'd be the city,
exposure.
but you have to vote for
It's
it.
the city. The city. Our exposure is you're not doing anything wrong. You're zoning to class. So it's the punishment becomes the attorney's fees. That's in most federal cases. Yeah, you know, and the city would have to pay those. That's sort of the punishment for getting the concept wrong. You know, politically, it's like everything else. When you don't have to carry the burden of it if you don't vote for it. And so, I mean, in terms of how people perceive that or what you can say about it, but your no vote doesn't make it any more enforceable or not enforceable. And it doesn't reflect a waiver or anything like that for the rest of council. So.
Okay, that was it.
But in every one of those instances, you're talking about things that are discretionary with council. You know, what you've targeted on, you can make motions without those provisions that you were critical of, and it'll be perfectly fine to do that. And it's up to the majority of the big group to decide if they want those provisions in. But, you know, it's fine to make motions without anything that is particularly pointed that you disagree with.
Okay.
So what would be good, Roger, just for everybody's benefit, is whatever issues you've got on those, if you wouldn't mind just emailing out to the group, because there may be others that see the issue, and then we can make some changes before we get to a final vote. So if you've got issues and concerns like that, go ahead and let us all know, because I may not have read that issue or concern into it, but now that you bring it up, I see the point of view. So it's helpful for the group if everybody understands what anybody's issues are ahead of time, and maybe we can head off any kind of disagreement. Maybe we get consensus on those.
Well, I don't know what email I would write in the future on this, because it's really, when I was looking through it, it's just each new obstacle I saw as an obstacle. If I was.
But that's what I would write, is, hey y'all,
Yeah.
I was reading through this and I've got some issues, I see this as an obstacle, blah, 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 and just, you don't have to get into all kind of depth on anything else, just say, I see these as issues and this is why, and just to let us know, because that's the thing on zonings especially, when you got a zoning coming up, I may look all through it and go through everything, but you come up with something that I never even considered. But now that I think about it, I agree with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at kind of the perspective of the applicant.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's always good to
It's
look
good
at
to
both
do.
sides and just put those thoughts in writing. That's good. And we'll look at the point you brought up earlier. We'll look at being less all-inclusive as far as describing, you know, the pre-issue sentiments of mayor and council. We can change that sort of
Because
blanket language.
just because it's written here doesn't mean that to us, this is a yes or no vote only. This is a time, and we gotta be taking this time to reviewing all of this and bringing up to everybody what issues or concerns you have to see if there's something we can do to make it better. So, I mean, because that's what my interest is, in making sure we do things the way the majority wants to do them, in a way that's good for the city. So, but it doesn't help if we just wait and get to the final vote, and then somebody votes no because of some reason that we weren't aware of, that maybe,
Or something that's easily changed.
yeah,
versus
or
something
we would have
that's-
been in agreement to change. So, all I'm saying is just, it helps if we are all open with that and get those concerns out as early as you can, so that we can, it gives Jason time to take a look at those concerns, see what his perspective is, and then all of us can kind of weigh in on that and see, you know, if we need to change things.
An SUP process, which is what you're switching it to, is not a no process. It's a, we need to mold, you know, in most instances, you need to mold the use to things around it that aren't the same. You're intruding into an area with something that's causing a parking issue or creating some odor issue where you have to put in conditions. That's really what they're designed for.
Yeah, I understand basically it boils down to private property because if it infringes with parking or runoff or water, that stuff I get, but not stuff where it's like the paint color or the material facade stuff, that's not.
Well, just know, as far as Jason and Austin and the planning staff, I mean, they have an ordinance to go by, you know that. And it's being, you know, looked at and rewritten right now. It's a good time to have that conversation.
I know, once I get the packet, I'm gonna go through it and see
Yeah,
what
yeah,
we don't have
Yeah,
it yet,
yeah.
so.
But these guys, I mean, they have to do their analysis based on the law or the ordinances that's been adopted. So it's nothing, you know, we aren't trying to keep other opinions out or anything. This is a good discussion. And with the UDO discussions, it's a good time also to bring it up when we have those kinds of meetings. So-
The only reason I can think of to have a color requirement that's already in your development regulation is a kind thing to do from a historical standpoint, is you're telling people there's a color issue involved when they're doing the zoning, so it doesn't surprise them later. There's nothing that Jason can do about it. He's gonna have to enforce that rule until the rule is changed, and that rule is not before you. But it's a notice, it's really a notice issue, which is a kind thing.
Yeah.
Okay? All right, so on the.
Before we move on, item
Yes.
C,
Yes.
are we gonna get into an issue because that's a CUP and we're switching to SUP?
I don't think so, because we'll operate under the ordinance that it was applied under.
Okay,
So
I just wanna make sure we're good on that.
Continue as the
Okay.
Okay, on the consent agenda, we have the approval of the Greenway Master Plan. Let's just put it on the consent agenda. Austin had given a presentation about it. There weren't any questions or comments or feedback on it, so we just figured everybody was good with it. So we'll
Everybody should have a copy.
go that. Under new business, we have a first read as well for the distilleries and the farm wineries. So we just need to waive that to our next meeting.
And that will be under public hearing next time, right, Melissa? Okay.
Then we've got the stat contract. Gonna nominate Billy Franklin for the Downtown Development Authority.
For that one, I read his thing and he works for ERs now.
Mhm.
And we do business with ERs now every once in a while. Is that a conflict?
It shouldn't be, because the DDA doesn't approve contracts.
Well,
They don't do any paving.
yeah, I know they don't do contracts, but it's downtown development. It's
I would think that'd be more than an arm's length
I don't think there's.
separation.
They went through that discussion in the DDA meeting.
Okay.
Going back to the stat contract, there's no reason I should recuse myself at this point, is there? Okay. Since I served on the board for 9 years or whatever.
You're not now.
I know, I'm not now.
Never mind.
Okay, just want to be sure.
You can recuse yourself if you were gonna vote no.
Wasn't planning to.
Then we have budget amendments. Bud, you wanna go over that now?
We do. I tried to give you a little background on the major changes. They're really 4 funds. I think you've got paperwork on 4 funds. And the major changes, of course, were in the general fund. And it's like I said in the overview. In most years, the changes add up to a net negative. This year, because of some items that came in on the revenue side, it came in very positive. The net addition through the general fund amendment is almost $2.5 million. And there were a lot of major items that I tried to list. And obviously, let's just look at revenue and expenditures. You notice that the fund balance, when you guys voted the $2.5 million for property acquisition, it shows up, it's accounted for in the budget. Good news, our combined taxes exceeded the budget by almost $260,000. That's the first category there. That's everything from property to financial occupation tax. So it's the one item that went down there is the title ad valorem tax. That took the place of the automobile tax, the annual automobile tax, and we've had a windfall in that category for 3 of the first 5 years. Last year, it came in under, and this year it came in under about $20,000. Talking to other communities, theirs are a lot lower than that. We budgeted $360, it came in at $340. That's a much lower reduction than most other communities saw. I don't know why that is, but we've had that conversation, and if the state had not changed that percentage of how much they collect of that, we would be in the black again, but unfortunately we aren't. But overall taxes, $260,000 to the good. Building permits, Jason knows how busy it's been. Almost $80,000 over where we budgeted, and we started out again. We're going to have another good year with the hotel and some other large permits. I guess the hospital permit was last year, wasn't it, Jason?
Mm-hmm.
The South Campus.
But the new senior one's on this year.
Okay, right. Intergovernmental, 2 things to note. On the SDS agreement, we received not only the public safety, but we also receive a full reimbursement on our 911 dispatch expenses. And the true up this time, we get a transfer from the county based on our budget. After an audit is done, there's what I call a true up, and this year it was a larger amount than we budgeted, to the tune of $468,000. On the intergovernmental, one thing that we could not know about, did not budget for, was the property that we sold to DOT for the 78-124 intersection. And they paid us $216,000 for that. And those are dollars that we had no idea that was going to come in. The next item, the large item, proceeds from capital leases. The last 3 years, we have been entering into lease agreements with the lowest bidder for our equipment purchases. That $1,129,000 covers those the lease pool receipts, and also, if you remember, we refinanced the Wisteria property. That was $535,000 on the revenue side that is in this budget amendment. A one-time addition is the equity fund, $437,000. This was money that was it was accounted for in a different fund. We moved it over to the general fund because we changed banks, we lost our good interest rate, our better interest rate, and so now it goes towards the general fund balance. That's a one-time transfer, but that money is there for for saving, spending purposes. On the expenditure side, the first item, legal fees, we obviously had a settlement to pay. We had some election issues that we had some extra legal fees on. So that's why that number ran over. DDA for marketing, we budgeted a lower amount to transfer because we thought Enterprise car rental was leaving the city. They didn't leave the city. So the number stayed up there. We had to adjust from the budgeted number to what we paid. And that will always be just a straight transfer to the DDA as long as you approve that. And then, of course, we had about $683,000 in land acquisition for the town center property, which was accounted for in the budget amendment under expenditures. So the ending fund balance at 63017 increased by almost $2.5 million. We're at almost 7.9 million, or 75% of our total budgeted revenues. And I would encourage you to look through the documents that you have, ask questions, but we need this, the budget amendment approved so we can finish up our audit. We're very close to having that done, so.
You said he changed banks. Which bank do we have now?
We changed to Bank of the Ozarks. We went through a bid process, and they were unbelievably competitive. Their interest rate was, about 6 times what we were receiving at.
So it's 0.6% instead of 0.1%?
No, it was over 1%. And when you have $13 million in the bank, when taxes come in, it makes a big difference. So that's they met every criteria that we needed. So they were a successful bidder.
Any questions on the budget?
Any reason not to approve it? I mean, it's
What's that?
lots of money.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a reason not to approve it.
Yeah.
We've got a lot more money than we thought.
Well, it's we had a good year. Like I said, that's a one-time. You aren't going to get that 437,000 every year. There are things look good right
We
now.
put the screws on our city manager, we might.
Things look good right now. We may just break even next year. So
And then we have, item E is finally awarding a bid on the Highway 78 sidewalk project. That's the sidewalks that'll go from the high school down to Rockdale Circle. It'll fill in all the gaps there.
Except one.
Yes, except one.
I have a question on this. I was just, out of curiosity, and maybe Gay, you can help me understand this, the wide variation in those bids. I mean, with the low bid at $94,900 and the high bid at $434,000 and whatever. I mean, why was there such a wide variation in the bids?
On the sidewalk?
Yeah,
They don't want the business.
is that it?
Well, that can be it. They just,
everybody.
Oh, you weren't involved in that, okay.
Everybody is in a different place business-wise. And, I mean, we had a lot of bidders on this, Gretchen.
Yeah, we did, yeah.
We had probably,
8 or 9.
I mean, there were.
Well, that was my
more than
question
that.
too. I always get leery when somebody's.
13.
I know, it makes me leery of the low bid.
But
is what-
Clark Patterson Lee,
Yeah,
our
I saw that.
engineers,
Yeah.
did check them out.
Do you have those letters?
I gave everybody a
Okay,
copy.
good, yeah. Jeff Mueller, who used to be working in Norcross, I think he had the same job that Gay has. He works for Clark Patterson now. And we checked out all the references, and he talked to the contractor. The contractor is fully cognizant of all the specs we put in place. They're ready to go to work.
Okay.
And he's put a letter of recommendation in, so I can tell you the references were great. They've done work for Lawrenceville before. I had never heard of it, Audico Development.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I'm glad they were interested in the project.
Yeah, it
Does
just
save some money.
shocked me to see such a variation.
Yeah. And this is another joint city-county project. We'll get 81% of this back from the county. And it will be way under budget, so there will be a discussion had with the county about where those
Extra
those
funds
extra
could go.
funds go to.
So we'll be just looking for a motion to award that bid. All right, so that's it for the council meeting, unless anybody has anything else on that. Then we'll get over to the work session agenda. Any correspondence?
No, no, ma'am.
Any city attorney's report? And no exec session for you?
No.
Butch has asked for a real short one.
Like
for
that,
development.
what, we have time? What?
It'll only take.
We
We're
have
not
time?
done yet. We still
Oh,
have a
okay.
few discussion items
It's
here.
like, well, that's not normal. We never have time.
So first discussion item A, discussion about the request for qualifications for the 2040 comprehensive plan. That's
It's
already
out on the
street.
street, and if you do have any questions, just let us know. The pre-bid is December 20th, at what time? 20th at 11 o'clock. If you'd like to come, you're more than welcome. It'll be in this room.
December 20th.
December 20th at 11.
I'll be giving a final exam. Our last final exam.
Oh, it's gonna be good.
Then we have item B is Snellville Days discussion. Butch wanted to run over a few things.
We have a request from the contractor that we've used for the last several years, JRM, for an increase in compensation. It is, they are willing to talk about different ways of reaching the number that they think they need. They are willing to keep our compensation at $42,500, where that's where it's been the last 3 years. The check that the amount that they guarantee us, and they'd like to be able to raise their commercial vendor fees.
The sponsorship level that is at 500 now, they'd like to leave Snellville businesses at 500 and then anybody outside of Snellville to 750.
Or they would also be able to, would be willing to sit down and talk about reducing the amount that they pay us annually to $42,500. So we just need a discussion with JRM. Do you think we could, I mean, they're very interested in getting moving, correct?
Yeah, they need to, they should have a week ago sent out some information to get to crafters and that kind of stuff, so we don't really, unfortunately, it's so big, you don't wait till right before the festival, so we really need to get going on giving them an answer on which direction we want to go in.
Well, I'd like the chance to sit down and talk to them immediately, because it's, that's you know, I think that I'd like the opportunity to talk to them about improvements that we could make to the festival,
Yeah.
and make sure they're okay with that. So,
Is that 750 for the whole time of the festival?
what's that?
The 750?
The 2 days, yeah.
Yeah.
I can tell you some of the festivals in Atlanta are like around 800. So I think some.
Yeah, but they're also getting more traffic.
The ones in Atlanta? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it seems like it's kind of high for Snellville.
Oh,
Vendor
yeah, yeah,
spot.
yeah.
Yeah. It's,
I'd like to find out what they're gonna provide, because that one year they had that electronic bulletin board, which I thought was great, and then it was gone, so, and I don't know why.
well,
Yeah. Would you be able to sit in on that meeting, to meet with them?
Probably.
okay.
And let me know when it is, I'll I'll try to be there too.
Let's just get them first thing in the morning and see
See
how
when they're
quick
available.
they can, because I know they need an answer.
Yeah,
And we need to provide them the kind of direction that
Have we ever competitive bid that?
we want. Excuse me?
Have we ever competitive bid that? Or is there?
That's a
Tough
difficult
deal.
thing to do.
I think.
Difficult thing to do.
All right.
all right, so if y'all can schedule a meeting or give us a couple options and we'll see if we can get somebody there to help be there with that. The monument sign by the Downtown Development Authority. I put this on the agenda, I just wanted to, this was more informational for council, and I saw Buddy's here too, Buddy and Eric, if either of you wanna say something, but basically my reason for putting this on the agenda tonight was just so that the council was apprised of what the DDA's talking about. They wanna do the second monument sign like they did on 78 coming in. They're ready, they're looking at the plans and placement of the next one, which is on Ronald Reagan. And so the pictures you have here, this is the sign that they would build. And the placement is out on Ronald Reagan if you're coming into the city in front of the daycare center. There's some open property there, and they've set up, they've taken hay bales out there and put up, that's what this picture is. This little dark spot over here are the hay bales, just to give everybody a sense of where it would be if you're driving down. So if you wanna take an opportunity to drive by there, and feel free to either let me know, Eric or Buddy. I just thought it would be good if y'all knew what they were talking about. They're early in the phasing of where they wanna, where the placement's gonna be, just to see if anybody had any questions or concerns, they could address that sooner rather than getting too far down the line. So, Buddy, you wanna add anything?
Yeah, just quickly, as a refresher, a few years ago, we put together a committee for a master wayfinding program that was eventually adopted by the council. And since then, we've actually adopted not only the look and feel for what we put together, but also the town green, things of that sort. So this is really, we're looking at, this would be the biggest sign we put in Snellville by far. So we started looking at it to see if the dollar still makes sense. And that's number one, because we did get some bids a few years ago when we first put it together. And of course, we weren't ready to do it then. So now we're actually trying to figure out, does it make sense from a dollar figure to actually do this large of a sign, which actually would be a nice keystone into the city from that direction. But secondly, is this the right location, right? So on that piece of it, and thanks to Eric, and I'm not sure who else put the bills on. You probably did it by yourself, but the bills were put out, and a few things that we saw. Number one was if we actually put it in that open area, it must go as far away from the tree line as possible for cars to see it. That's number one. So the bills aren't quite in its right place right now. But secondly, there's another alternative that is actually in the tree area, since they're actually younger pines, is that we've actually talked about the option of as you make that curve into the city, is that every car as it goes through, if you actually take out a little grove of those trees and put the monument there, you do a few things. One is that every car must see it. Is face on as we take that curve. Secondly is that we probably would save some cost because if you actually have it butted up against a forest of trees, we don't have to figure out how to finish the backside so that the properties in back of it actually won't see just exposed concrete, right? So that piece of it. So from a cost saving side, it actually might make sense there, and from a viewability, it would actually make sense. So we're kind of going through all those things right now.
So really, the only purpose of having that on the work session was to let you all know what was happening, and if you wanna drive by there and see where the hay bales are, sure Buddy and Eric will take your comments.
Mayor Pro Tem, one quick just question that might be on people's minds. Either one of those locations are Gwinnett County right of way, so there won't be any property acquisition or those kinds of things. We're not on private property, we're just trying to stay out of the right of way. It's the big deal that Gwinnett County's asked us to do.
Okay. Okay. Update on ongoing projects?
The town center working plan, that is the item that I do need an executive session to talk about one or two things there. the joint city and county plans. We have incorporated every comment that the county has made into the RFP. We are waiting on their updated documents as far as their ethics affidavit and their, one other item, one other document that their attorney, Mike Ledwazak, is supposed to be sending, Tony. They have the proposed architectural services contract, and there have been no negative comments about that. So we talked again today. I hope that he said that they should have that to you shortly. So, I'll talk with him every day about that. So, and then it's just a matter of getting it to the paper. Public relations and marketing. This is something that you have in front of you, a tentative list of topics for our retreat planning session. And this is one of the items that I put on there, establishing new goals and priorities for the direction that we head next when it comes to marketing the city and doing our brochures. Because we've accomplished a lot. Brian's done a great job. We've worked well with Jeremy, and we need a new list. We need some direction from the mayor and council on that. So town hall meetings, that's another one of those things that we need to talk about at the retreat. The UDO, I think we have all sections of the code work that Caleb has done under review at the staff level. We're probably 1 week behind the new schedule, which we sent out at the last meeting, gave out at the last meeting. So we're working through the holiday season, trying to stay on track there. The roundabout construction, I think we probably have a little executive session update on that also, but we're very close on North Road. The 78-124, the intersection, Pittman has held a second utility coordination meeting here at City Hall. We work well with the project manager. We're getting almost a weekly update as far as their work. We try to share that with you guys in case you get questions. They're still surveying and doing drainage in the right of way, but out of the main traffic lanes.
And on those updates, when you get those, because we're getting them by email, you're also posting them on the website. If y'all would, go ahead and copy and paste or post them onto your Facebook or wherever else.
Okay.
So that it's getting out as far as it can, and always refer them back to the city's page, because we do have a tab just for that intersection update.
To the city's website or Facebook page?
Website.
Website, okay.
There's a tab on the website for 78-124 intersection, and people that'll stay updated.
Okay.
So if anybody wants to know what's going on to help plan their travel, the more we can keep the public aware of what's happening, it might help with traffic a little bit.
Mayor, just as a comment, the last update we got said there really won't be that much work between now and past the 1st, so I don't expect updates for the next 2 weeks.
Okay.
I think our next update will come the first week of January after the holiday.
And they should have their office set up over there at the old Hardee's, and we'll start meeting over there weekly.
Yeah, January 10th is the next utility meeting.
Okay.
Business retention and attraction, that's a committee that is still, I guess, under review. There may be,
Yeah.
this is a group of citizens that we can use in a lot of different ways for input and direction. So I just added that the best use of the committee really is to be determined. The 2017 SPLOST program collections are slightly over budget, which is very good news. We still are in the planning stages for the transportation projects, and we still do not have a recreation intergovernmental agreement from the county yet. Mike also said they're working on that with Phil Hoskins. Higher education outreach, no change. The sidewalk, the bid is on your, a very aggressive, good bid, which we highly recommend approving, is on the agenda for tonight.
Also, the topic list for the retreat that Butch passed out, this is potential topic items. Chrissy is gonna be doing the retreat for us, and she'll be calling everybody, tell me if I'm saying this wrong, but she'll be calling everybody in advance to just go through some questions. And if you've got any topics you'd like to go over, let her know, and she'll help put together the agenda. Okay. All right, is that everything? Anybody have anything else? Then with that, we've got a few minutes here. We'll do a executive session during the work session of the mayor and city council of Snellville, Georgia. Mayor Pro Tem Bender announced that certain